I was mindlessly clicking this buy it now button, and it felt good, right? It felt good to buy something because it felt like a solution sort of maybe to a problem I was having, or like, oh, this thing will be the right cable for this or whatever. And that sort of action felt more like just a muscle movement, like a twitch in this impulsive thing. And then it sort of, I realized that idea followed through to checking your smartphone, pulling things out, feeling uncomfortable just standing in line or at a street corner or just waiting for a friend instead of just idling and sort of being willing to exist in space.
This episode of The Ground Up Show is brought to you by The Present Moment. The Present Moment, where you are right now. It's the new exhilarating product that Fast Company is calling the blank space between your thoughts. Studies show that the present moment increases awareness, overall well-being, and libido. Get the present moment today. These claims have not been verified by the FDA. Please contact a doctor if the present moment lasts more than 4 hours. What's going on, guys, and welcome back to The Ground Up Show. Today, I've got an amazing guest. It's Anthony Ongaro. He's the filmmaker and writer behind Break the Twitch. You've probably seen his content online. He inspires people to minimize their distractions to do more of what matters. In our conversation, we cover how to fail forward and learn from the mistakes that we've made in the past. I'm a complete Jedi master. I just got a text message. That's terrible. I got to turn the notifications off. This is hilarious because this is what this podcast is about. It's about the distractions, about that twitch, like that urge to go after our phone. That was a very great reminder for me that I should turn off that notification. Anyway, yeah, so I'm a Jedi master at making terrible mistakes. But he talks about how we can learn from them and how we can move forward and how we can make sure that we don't ever make those mistakes twice. The next one is we talk about the steps it takes to leave your corporate job to follow an untraditional path. And this is something that I know a lot of people are struggling with. A lot of people are trying to figure out how to do it. Anthony has done it himself, and he talks about what he would do differently and also the things that he got right when he first left his job. And we also talk about something important to content creators, which is how to control our content in a world where we are giving control away. We are uploading our videos to YouTube, posting photos to Instagram. We are giving all of our content to these other platforms, and we are at the whim of their algorithms. We are at the whim of whether these products and applications stay in business. You know, we obviously, this is folklore at this point, but MySpace went out of business and people had built their entire lives and their income streams around this one thing. So we talk about, like, how can we actually regain control today? How can we best approach this world as content creators to both deliver amazing content, to reach an audience, but also to make sure that we're not putting all of our eggs in one basket. That and a whole lot more on this episode of The Ground Up Show. Do you have a question for my guests or I about how to live a meaningful life, how to make killer content, how to get your message heard? Well, if you've got a question, I'd love it if you record a short audio or video clip and sent it to hello@mattdiavella.com. I've been playing and answering some of your questions on the podcast since the beginning of the year, and it's been amazing to hear from you and the specific things that you guys are going for. Record those video and audio clips, send them to hello@mattdiavella.com, keep them under 2 minutes, and we will get you on the show. Excited to continue to hear from you guys and the things that you are working on. And one last thing before we get to the show, if you've gotten some value out of the podcast and you want to help support the show, it only takes 15 seconds. Go to iTunes, leave a review, and let me know and let people know what you think about the show, what value you've gotten out of it. That really helps to get the word out. And it just really means a lot to me to be able to see how you've been affected by the show. And it helps me make sure that I'm steering in the right direction as I move forward. And here we go. I first met Anthony about a year ago, but digitally, not in person. This was the first time we met in person to record this podcast. But I reached out to him because I know he had been making videos around minimalism and filmmaking and all this stuff for the past couple years. So I wanted to try to build some allies and learn from him and see what he had to say about Jesus again. That's sorry. That was an alarm. I set an alarm to remind myself to book in reservations for this restaurant. So this is hilarious that on the episode that we talk about distractions, I am the one being distracted from recording the intro. All right. Sorry about that. So yeah, I first met Anthony about a year ago. He really helped me. He helped me get to the bottom of the things that I was struggling with, and he helped me to understand the direction that I should be heading with my own content creation. So I think you guys are going to find this conversation equally inspiring and equally helpful. So with that, I don't know. Let's start the show. Let's go. Let's do it. You're listening to The Ground Up Show, a podcast that inspires creatives to make meaningful content and pursue their passions. My name's Matt Diavella, and I'm a filmmaker best known for the Netflix documentary Minimalism. And I'm sitting down with creators to talk about their process, the lessons they've learned, and how to make an impact. I could shoot videos of other people all day.
Right.
But when I got to shoot a video myself, it's like, give me an extra 3 hours of setup time and then like you shoot a video and realize you're like, oh shit, I didn't get that one shot. Because you're thinking about 100 different things at once.
Yep.
And then you go to the edit. That's why actually a lot of times when I shoot a video, if it's on the couch here or just in like a talking head thing, I will keep everything set up, pop it in the computer.
Absolutely.
Maybe do a quick once through, and then I'm like, oh shit, I did forget to say that.
Yep. My SD card comes out. I go look.
Yeah.
Everything stays set up, and then before I move on to B-roll or whatever, I'm always checking.
Yeah. What I've like, that's the thing, and there's like obviously a certain there's like a format and a style to videos, and I try not to get trapped into think like, oh, I have to make the video in this certain way. So lately I've been doing, you can move that around. Lately I've been doing, what if I just open it up with a little bit of a talking head and then I just go into voiceover? Because, our voiceover is easy to make. And it's like...
Are they? Because for me, it's the opposite.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know.
How so? What's the problem with the voiceovers?
I only outline my videos. I don't script at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, okay, here's what I want to talk about. And so I feel like for me personally, I'm not as good at memorizing and doing that kind of stuff. And I don't want to read from a teleprompter.
Yeah.
So for me, what kind of became natural is just outlining and then talking through the subject and then editing through and hitting certain lines, making sure certain things happen. And so I want to try, actually, I mean, you in a way have inspired me to want to try doing some more voiceover stuff. One, because I think it'll push me more as a filmmaker trying to really tightly plan the thing fully, instead of like, okay, this can shape together and kind of pulling it together in post. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
but I think there's also a balance too, that like some people will script out an entire storyboard and go, I like never do storyboards. And some people are just, I think, visually that way, and how they prepare things. They just want to draw everything out, and they're really good at illustrating.
I don't really do that.
Oh yeah, I saw you did it once.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
just to show Amy was filming it.
Oh, okay.
So it was literally like,
dude, I would have to do that too.
Here's what I'm thinking. Like, all right, so try to,
because I'll have like my sister and my girlfriend help me out with videos, and my sister said very passive aggressively, she said, oh, I guess this is why directors need to be good at communicating. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't need your help anymore. But like, so obviously it's just stressful working with family. Don't work with family. Maybe, I don't know. It can work out.
No, it is.
Yeah. But I would say that for me, it's like I don't really storyboard, but I do usually come up with a script. And a lot of times, like I did a video, The New Normal, about a toaster, and like that had to be very scripted because there's kind of punches and jokes and certain things that I wanted to carry out. For me, it depends upon if the subject is visual, and that's really the toughest thing. And I've actually been thinking about a video. I'm like, I should just do a video about just the dilemma of the filmmaker of like, it's like, what do you put on the screen? Like when there's something that you're talking about that's an abstract thought, how do you visualize that and represent it? Because you could put the sunset of LA, and like you could put people walking down the street, and I did lots of that in minimalism, but it's like, Oh man, I wish there was an easier way to like represent those ideas. That's why a lot of times when I'm thinking about videos, I try to be as visual as possible. And I'm like, oh, a toaster. Cool. Great. I can get a toaster on Amazon and then return it. And then like for that time while I have it over that 2 weeks, I'll like shoot a bunch of footage with it. And then it actually represents and talks about an idea. But it is very hard to kind of come up with those.
Well, to me, that's the creativity of it. I think you do that really well. You know, it's how do you tell this story without telling it, today and just filming like you writing it, it's just,
right?
Like, how do you visualize it?
It almost represents it. Like, it's a little bit. You got to be a little bit creative with it. But anyway, Anthony, thanks for coming on the podcast. Really excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, this is. It's funny when I first started to do the original content. Like this was right after I made minimalism, and I was just I was like, I wanted to make my own stuff. And then I saw what you were doing, and I'd seen your videos and pop up over the past couple of years before that, and I was like, man, I should just reach out and like, because like you were at a place where I wanted to be, and I was like, damn, like he's making good videos and he's got consistent stuff he's putting out on YouTube, and he's built up an audience. And we hopped on a Skype call early on. You gave me some really good advice, so thank you for that.
Oh, absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about kind of what you've been up to lately, and then we'll kind of hop back and talk a little bit about your story.
Yeah, sounds good. So lately I've been doing two things. One is writing and making YouTube videos for Break the Twitch. A little less recently specifically, but I've also been doing quite a bit of client film work. So different projects, shooting some online courses, shooting some projects for different clients and things like that. And now I'm actually moving forward into just focusing on Break the Twitch for a while again, because I'm just feeling very called to do that and really just want to spend more time on it.
Yeah, that's funny because when we had that initial call, we were both going on separate paths. Like I was starting to leave the client work, and then you were starting to get into the client work. Yep. I was starting to, build my own thing, original content, and then you were going that way. What did you learn about the client work and that side of things as you started to build that up over the past year or so?
Yeah. So what I found is that I am really passionate and I really love many aspects of that. Mm-hmm. I love working on set with people. I love creatively collaborating, and I love helping essentially establish and manifest a vision that people have. So in a sense, taking an idea and then putting that into a visual medium and then handing it over and being like, this is what you wanted, right? This is the kind of the cool thing we were working on. And so I really liked that. I really liked working with people to do that on set. But then I found that doing client work a lot of the time, that was like 5% of the work, like it actually being on set, creating it, working to make it. And a lot of it, as you know, comes together in you're sitting at a computer for 10 hours in a day, just sort of editing and stuff, which I enjoy as a process as well. But essentially, that's not what I really, really wanted to do. So it kind of got to a point where it was either, okay, well, I need to grow and hire an editor or bring on a bigger team and then start scaling this, or I need to do something else. Yeah, dude, I know how that feels. And I was definitely at that place as well, where, I mean, because if you're not enjoying, the editing or the grunt work of it, you either have to scale up or figure out another way to get it done or do something else entirely. And it can be challenging, because that's really committing when you start to bring on employees and then you have an editor full time, and that probably will be where this road leads you anyway, right? Like as you build out Break the Twitch and it grows, you eventually would want to be able to hire people that can help you put together the videos. Yeah.
You've hired, I'm sure, like subcontractors and stuff. Have you ever had an employee yet for either company?
No. So I haven't. I've had like a virtual assistant, to someone working with me on Break the Twitch, doing a lot of like back end type stuff for WordPress and different things, and did that for a while. And the experience was good. I definitely learned a lot about myself in terms of being a manager and being someone that needs to essentially establish the process first and then hand it over.
Right.
And which is a huge lesson, I think, especially in all of this practice of intentional living, these ideas of like living in alignment with what you actually care about, what you want to do, you have to first know what that is before you can help someone else do that, obviously.
Yeah.
And so, so I did have someone work with me for Break the Twitch. Now my wife and I work together, Amy, and I both work on the stuff. So it's been really interesting, a lot of fun doing that. But so I've worked with people on set. I hire people to come on with me or different projects and things like that.
I've done that. I've only done like the subcontractors that I've hired out, usually friends, people that I know. If I'm working in a random city, I'll have to just reach out and find connections and people that I know there to work with, but never in a full-time capacity. I did hire like a personal assistant for a little while, but this was when I was doing client work, and there wasn't that many tasks that needed to be done. That's the thing. I'm like, oh shit, I don't even know. The tough thing is that, like, I think in the beginning, you actually need more skilled people than you do not to say that personal assistants aren't skilled. I'm sure there are some that are amazing and incredibly talented.
I had a pretty amazing one.
Yeah. There are some good ones out there. But like, I guess I don't spend a whole lot of time with those tasks these days. Like, I don't get too caught up in email or whatever it is that I would need them to do, like creating calendars and scheduling things. But like the main time, if I look at 90% of my time, it's editing.
Yeah.
So it's like that would be the first place that I'd probably eventually bring somebody on, is to like edit these podcast episodes or edit down the short form content. But that costs money, and that's way more expensive than a personal assistant. So there's definitely two sides to it.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think what I realized with the transition that kind of put the cap on everything from, I may still do client work if a fun project comes up or different things. I don't know. But I just know that the priority, the focus now is going back to Break the Twitch and doing this. But what really put the cap on it was realizing that I wanted to be the catalyst with bringing people on and, having a fun collaboration or project like this and bringing you in on it and coming out to LA and like filming it, shooting it, and making stuff for our channels and being the person that brought people together to do that under Break the Twitch or under the project or whatever, instead of, hey, here's this thing I need you to make. Here's money for it. Like, go for it.
It's cool. Money's great.
Yeah.
And like there's a certain time in your life when that's going to be the most important thing. Is, for me, it was graduating with $97,000 in student loan debt, and man, like just purely pursuing a passion without thinking about how is this going to make me money, I think would have been a mistake. Like, I needed to make money. I was able to bring a passion filmmaking into it and really build that out and actually create a company. And like, it was very slow in the beginning, but like, there's obviously, to each their own. There's people take other paths, and the guys at Living on $1, they made that documentary without any experience filmmaking. They're just like, they're passionate about it. It was in college. They were like, let's just go. They were on the podcast, Chris and Zach, and they went down with a couple other filmmakers, and then they just made this thing with no money, and they put it together. So like, that worked for them, and it turned out great. There's a lot of struggle, a lot of hustle. For me, it was like doing weddings and bar mitzvahs and like making money, and like, there was a passion to that, but at the same time, it's like, obviously I would rather have been doing something else.
It's an immense privilege to be like, no, just pursue your passion.
Yeah.
Like I think it's a worthwhile pursuit, right? And it's what we all want in a lot of ways, but to make a lot of money working with our passion, the thing we care about. But at the end of the day, like, you need to balance like paying off your student loan debt or paying
the
rent.
Bills.
Right,
like the real life shit. And that's what I think a lot of times people glaze over that, right? Just in the pursuit of passion. And like, I don't know. I agree like you said, but be practical about it, figure out a way to turn whatever somebody once said, find something that you really like to do that you can get paid for, so you can do, and so you have time to do the stuff that you really love. And I think that's a great way to look at it. And there's obviously semantics there where maybe you find something you love to do, sure, whatever. But like, find stuff that you really like to do that you actually enjoy, because 9 to 5 plus, I mean, a lot of us work more than 9 to 5 in our work days. So you have to love that. You should really like it, at least
as much as possible.
Yeah. What's cool to have you on the podcast is that you're the first other minimalist filmmaker that I've had on the show. And
Nice.
we were talking about before the podcast, not many.
Yeah.
There's not many minimalist filmmakers out there on YouTube. I was on Craig Adams' podcast.
Yeah,
I don't know
I've
if you
seen
know
his
him.
stuff. Yeah, he's cool.
He's great, really great dude. He just started a podcast and he's been doing the minimalist filmmaking on YouTube for a while. But I guess there's not many minimalist filmmakers, but there's definitely not a lot of minimalist men making videos online.
Yeah.
What have you seen in that space?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true, and I think it's a space that definitely there are a lot of really big men bloggers, writers, authors, right? Which is interesting, and I've spoken with some of my female friends that are in this space, and that question comes up. I've seen it come up on Twitter, like, what's the balance here? Why is, like, on YouTube it's more woman dominated in a lot of ways in the space of intentional living and things like that, and I'm not sure, I don't know exactly why that is, and a lot of this stuff I think is maybe more of like not like sensitive, but it's like kind of a
I was there. I was almost like, you have to be, it's a little bit self-conscious to put yourself on camera and talk about this stuff. I was thinking that
Vulnerable, yeah.
being vulnerable. Yeah, that might be it. Because I was thinking, like, women, like, they're like, you know, to put themselves out there to get ridiculed and all the YouTube comments and shit that they might get.
It's messed up.
Yeah, I'm like,
women have it so much worse on YouTube than
right.
men
And
do.
that's
Yes.
what I was thinking was like, well, that shouldn't deter. But the vulnerability aspect of it, women are much more able to be vulnerable and open with their emotions, and men, we just like hold it back, and
Right.
we don't let that out. So like, that was a big thing when I first started my channel. I was like, I'm starting a YouTube channel. It was like the same day my brother got into the Air Force. I
wow.
started a YouTube channel. I was like, God damn it. My life, like, obviously we're going to very different paths. My brother's
Different
like
paths.
Top Gun, Tom Cruise. I'm like, dude making like dick jokes on YouTube. But no, that's a good point. Did you face that when you first started putting videos on YouTube?
Yes and no. I think so. That's like vulnerability, right? And the idea of facing that, and I've always been sort of okay exploring the personal development space, talking through this stuff, and so I don't know that I had the immediate thing, but I definitely had the fear of, like, I was starting it, so I kind of started on YouTube. My very first video is just like a 3/4 shot of me not even looking at the camera.
I watched it. I loved it.
It's just
I always have to, if I have a YouTuber on, I'm like, I gotta watch your first video. Yeah, I loved it. It was great. You didn't have a microphone. It was just
Nope.
the on-camera mic.
Just the on-camera mic.
Yeah.
Like 8.5 feet away.
Dude, I love that. My favorite part was the looking. Was that sometimes you would look at the camera and then sometimes you would just look like
Yeah.
off to the side. I did the same thing. It's like you don't know where to look.
So for a long time, one of the hardest things about that for me was being able to talk while looking into the camera. Mm-hmm. So, which I actually just darted over and looked at the camera. So
Oh, son
that's
of a
hilarious.
bitch.
Dang it.
Show over.
And so I was talking to my wife in that video in order for, because I had a friend there. It's like, look, just if you want to experiment with video, just shoot one. Just do it. And I was like, I don't know. I just feel like I was trying to be too perfectionist about it, even though I didn't know a ton about it at that point. And so I had to talk to Amy. And I think for people that are starting out on YouTube, starting out with this stuff, it's weird to look into a lens and just talk like you're talking to a person. It didn't flow for me. And for me, the best content, the best videos, the best ideas come out when you're talking to someone and it comes up in conversation and you get into that flow state where you forget that everything else is going on.
It can be intimidating to just look into a lens.
Yes.
It's just like, it seems like an empty void.
Yeah.
But like, cause isn't it bizarre? Just that then when you put it online, it just seems so natural. If you can actually deliver and like you have a little bit of personality, like it just seems like, and you can cut and edit and it just seems like not that weird. But if you were in that room, if you just saw a fly on the wall behind the scenes without music or anything, you'd just be like, well, this is weird.
It's awkward. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so that goes away. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is it's just like the flow principle of as you get into something, the more times you do it, the more natural it becomes and you get used to it. And then you can talk to a camera lens and not feel weird about it and feel like you're
Yeah. I don't think I could have done that with Natalie. Looking at Nat, I feel like she would have just like shit on me and made fun of me the whole time.
Yeah.
It would have been difficult. She doesn't take my work seriously, but
Oh, no.
but I thought you did. No, I thought you did. You were as much as that was your first video. I still felt like it seemed natural, and it seemed like you were riffing very well in terms of your talking points.
Thank you.
Obviously, that was then a pursuit to get better at filmmaking. I want to kind of go down that road.
Yeah.
And then I saw kind of after that, you started to do a little bit of vlogging, or at least that's what you called some of the earlier videos were vlogs.
That's what I thought I was doing. Yeah. I didn't know. Like,
Yeah.
I guess I'm vlogging about this stuff now and walking around. It was hilarious. Like, I kind of miss some of that aspect of just like the Casey Neistat rig of just walking around and talking, but then I'd be like out of breath.
Oh my God, no, actually, I probably watched too many of your videos, but like the one, oh my God, that was so good. You were just talking about walking past somebody. I was like, dude, that's like how I feel. And that's why I don't vlog. It's just because I'd just be too embarrassed. And especially in LA, like I just don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
As much as like it looks cool. The video is, a lot of people make great vlog videos, but I'm like, I don't know. Also, there's that element, just everybody's doing it. You know, everybody's running around with their Rode mic on top of their A7S and their Jobby Go, whatever the heck those things are called.
Yeah, the Job.
I've got one of those
Gorilla
Jobbies,
Pod,
but yeah, the
whatever.
Gorilla Pod. I've got one, but like, I don't know. It just seems like, do we really want to know about everybody's day?
So the daily vlog used to be a fantastic way to build a YouTube channel. Back when there were like 6 people doing it, it was like what's his name, Shane, the Shaytards, I think they called themselves, and like Philip DeFranco making the daily news videos, and people making daily content became a very effective way to build a channel, and that's not the case anymore. I know people that are daily vlogging a trip around the world right now and not getting followers, like not getting subscribers.
Like, yeah.
And they're doing amazing stuff where, a few years ago, maybe that would be like a very solid way to build a channel. But now I think why I haven't gone that route, why I don't do a lot of that is just simply because I want to make stuff that's really helpful to people, that people can search for and find. That's a lot of what you're doing now is like, too, which I think is super helpful, really a good thing to do, just because I want to create resources. I want to help people. I want to share what I've learned along the way. And I think the best way to do that isn't through just showing what I did today. You can instill cool stuff into that and like learnings, but it just becomes, I'd rather focus it in, I guess, minimalism, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's a great way to look at it. And there's a lot of, I don't know if they still recommend this, the Gary V's and the Casey Neistats. Like, I definitely think they recommend creating lots of content. I'm not, like, I used to watch their stuff a little bit more than I do these days. But it was like, just create every day and release every day. Just keep put stuff out there.
You got to be in the feed. Feed. That was their whole thing, yeah.
But now I think it's way, 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 way different. It's like, you just make really good shit. Make one great video per week. And like, you know, if you could do 2 great videos a week, obviously that's better. But just as long as it's really good, it's really thoughtful, I think that's probably the best use of your energy. And like you said, if you want to add some vlogging elements, I know I just came across Peter McKinnon.
Oh yeah,
who's doing some great stuff.
He does a great job.
He's unbelievable. There's actually, it's funny. I talked about this yesterday, but on another podcast. But because I saw him right when I hit like 50,000 subscribers, I saw he got like 1 million or 2 million in a year, and I was like,
yeah.
I am nothing. But I'm like, wait a minute, what am I doing? This is not why I'm doing this.
Right.
It's not for the followers, not for this and that.
No.
And like, you have to really, you can frame the way you look at other people and the way you look at that and just see it as inspiring. And you'll be like, wow, he really inspires me to want to step up my filmmaking game, to become better and hone the craft and get better. And I think that's that what you have to look at anybody who's doing something differently than you or better than you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I look at your stuff and I feel like I get totally inspired by the stuff you're creating, and you have so much more experience as a filmmaker than I do. And I look at your stuff and I'm just like, man, that's awesome.
Thanks,
and
man.
So
sometimes you look at other people and you're like, God damn it, I hate you.
No, I don't feel that way.
No.
You know, it's a healthy. I get it. No, yeah. I totally get it. And I think some of that is healthy, and some of that is like, it's like pushing you. You know, because you just gotta keep going. That's what matters. Like you can feel that, and you're like, but as long as that turns into like, all right, I want to be better, and I want to see what this can lead to for me,
right?
And how I can show up. Like that's great.
The scariest thing is to feel defeated.
Yeah.
If you feel defeated, if you feel like, oh, I'm never going to be able to do that, then you're just done. The conversation's over.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's so important. And that's why sometimes it's great to be inspired by people that are like not doing good work, that have a huge audience. That is so inspiring to me, because I'm like, wow, like, okay, I guess like you can, you know what I mean? Like I feel like I'm doing pretty good work. And if they have, this reach, and if they're able, their message resonates and people are really getting value from what they're saying, then it's like, all right, then maybe there's a place for me.
Yeah.
So how did you, like, as a filmmaker, so you obviously got a lot better after that first video.
I hope.
Yeah. And like started to, get better at crafting lighting, and you got a microphone. Like how did that journey progress, and how did you see yourself improving as a filmmaker?
Yeah, definitely. So I've been a very, I don't think the term is, I don't love the term, but fail forward type of thing. And I don't even know if I'm using that phrase in context properly, mm-hmm. But I think what it means is that I love trying stuff, and I sort of just slowly build and slowly just make choices around getting excited about things and wanting to learn more about them, and then just adding to my kit and going progressively. So when I was starting out, I borrowed just like a 60D from work and shot that on that. Mm-hmm. And realized, I don't like that there's a light bouncing in my glasses constantly, right. In this, and the sound is not clear, and I want to start doing this. So as I started vlogging, I started doing different formats and started experimenting. That sort of went in. I left my full-time job in February. I worked for a bike share company before doing what I do now. And so once I left, I started experimenting with like, okay, my wife Amy and I have been on this sort of journey. I've been an entrepreneur in different forms. I sold headlights online at one point with some friends, actually the friends that I'm out here visiting as well, and just done different things. So I've always known that I sort of like doing things differently, like doing things in a way that works for me that might not work in a traditional job situation. And so it just sort of evolved, and I started doing the YouTube videos, started vlogging, and people would kind of just try to improve each one a little bit, spend a little more time on it, and get down what was going on. And then a friend would say, hey, I see you're doing this YouTube stuff. Can you make a video for my homepage for my office or whatever? And so I'd bring my camera over and do stuff. And each time that would happen, I would turn that into a microphone or I would turn that into, okay, like this lens will be helpful for this. And trying to balance, it's hard, I think, as a filmmaker, to be a minimalist filmmaker, because
isn't that the irony of it all?
There's just a lot of stuff, like audio cables and power cables and batteries and all this stuff. And so trying to carefully choose what I was doing and just sort of evolving along the way. And it took 3 years, maybe. I mean, it took 2.5, 3 years to just slowly build up a kit to where now I can go to Alaska and film a 5-day thing with the gear that I have. And it didn't happen all at once, and I'm sure you can resonate with this, is like, it's not, most often the camera or the gear you're shooting with doesn't matter. I mean, you want good audio, obviously. Mm-hmm. That's a high priority, but the first question for many people is like, oh, what lens were you using? Or like, what camera were you using? And I don't want to discredit that. There's a big part of that, of having gear that looks nice. If you have a full frame camera, it's going to have that nice, depth of field going on and things. But it's really easy, especially without this idea of practicing intentionality around it, to think like, oh, I can buy a better filmmaker if I can buy myself into being a better filmmaker, and I've found that's not true.
I completely agree. I think that the gear is important, like you said. It does add a tremendous amount of value. Otherwise, we wouldn't spend so much time thinking about it. And I know both of us have spent a lot of time, because you're making big choices.
Yeah.
It's different if you're going to the store and you're like, I'm going to pick a different coffee out today. And it's like, all right, well, that's a difference of $1. But when you're buying a camera, it's $1,000, $2,000 investment. So I do think you should put the time and thought into it and be like, all right, which camera is going to work for me? But like at the end of the day, if you spend an extra $3,000 on a camera because you think it's going to make you a better filmmaker, you're dead wrong. That's not going to be the way that you're going to improve. So yeah, but it's definitely a balance. I found, like you, the best thing that I ever did was reinvesting in myself. The first thing I ever bought was a pair of headphones. I got $100 from following around a clothing company for a day. I remember I took a photo, I sent it to my brother, and I was like, dude, making money. Like I made $100. I was in college.
Got to celebrate that.
Oh, it was amazing. And then the first thing I did was take that $100 and I bought a $100 pair of headphones. I wasn't very good with business practices and trying to actually paying
Just
myself.
Move this over here.
Exactly. And now profit. But it was that element of just reinvesting in myself. And a lot of times it might not be the gear that you're investing in. It might be a book that you're buying. It may be a course. It may be your time invested in actually, working on this stuff. So I think it's like you got to look at all of it. But if you're reinvesting in yourself and your craft, that's like the best way to go about it.
Absolutely.
So we kind of brushed over it a little bit, but it was you leaving your job.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. That's not like a small decision. And that happened in February 2015.
16.
16.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me about that process. So you had the channel and your stuff for about a year. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Or maybe more.
No, yeah. About exactly that. So for 3 years, I was the marketing director of the bike share system in Minneapolis. So those like bike vending machines, basically. And now they're all going to a kind of free roam model, but it's changing. The industry's changing. But I was working there for 3 years. And I think it was around the end of 2014 that I met Joshua Becker of Becoming Minimalist at an event. And we started talking, and over the following few years became friends, and that initial meeting I think really influenced Amy and I in a way that changed our perspective about things. We had always been interested in the idea of intentional living, of conscious living, of doing things not differently, because I don't find myself to be a contrarian in any way, or like, I don't know, maybe that's just a weird perspective I have. Maybe this is contrarian stuff, but I think learning about minimalism, learning about this stuff really inspired me to start looking at my life and intentionally shaping it instead of just like it drew a line between what we knew we wanted, which was more flexibility, more freedom, and where we were. And I think that is what led to eventually starting the blog. When this idea of the Twitch came to me with the Amazon spending, and realizing that was more of just like a muscle movement than a choice, than an intentional choice that I was making, and then exploring that through the blog. And then I got to a point where it was halfway in between being ready to leave what I was doing, not because of a bad situation, but just because I was ready. I think 3 years was the longest I'd had a job at that point. I've just done a lot of different sort of things over my career and really enjoyed that path, I guess. And so I was ready to do something else, and Break the Twitch was there, and the video was starting to happen. And so I was starting to explore that stuff and push more into that. And so it was sort of like a weirdly joint. And so for a big period of 2016, both Amy and I were freelancing and doing this stuff full time. It was intense.
A bit scary.
Terrifying, actually. No, like legitimately it was, okay, well, let's just see what happens. And kind of, it was very stressful, and we did it probably not very well. And now we're doing it again, but with where we should have been doing it back then.
Okay,
you
so
know
what did you learn, and what are you doing differently now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a friend of mine, Jeff Goins, he talks about, instead of leaping, don't leap, build a bridge. So a lot of it, like Chris Gillibo right now, talking a lot about side hustle, building something on the side, doing something that you care about that can build extra income and build a bridge. I think there is value in a leap if you creatively can grow from that and you can figure out more quickly what it is that you need to do to make it all work. But yeah, what I would do differently is build more of a bridge, obviously have a bigger thing to go to. And I don't know that that's particularly helpful information, but
Colin Wright said, he's like, don't, when you take the jump, make sure your parachute's already built. Don't try to build your parachute on the way down.
On the way down. Yeah, absolutely.
And I completely agree. And that's where I like always say calculated risk. So like everything I've done since going into debt, since I graduated, obviously those decisions weren't calculated. Since I bought a car right after I graduated, a brand new car, it's been about like being very calculated about the risks I take, because I knew from those experiences that if you take a big risk and you take on this student loan debt or you take on that brand new car, it comes with a very high cost that's much more than just the price tag that you're signing on for.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, how can I then start to build a business and all right, move home with my parents. And as I make the leap from doing weddings and bar mitzvahs to strictly corporate client work, do I have enough corporate client work coming in that I can just say no to those weddings?
Yeah.
And then switch it from that point. I was like switching to doing freelance to the original stuff. And it's like, now I'm not making money, but I'm like, I was very thoughtful about it. And I didn't just jump without having some money saved up that's going to last me a while.
Yeah. And it sounds a bit ignorant to say like, oh, we just leapt into we didn't do that. Like it was a choice. It was a timing thing, and it was hey, let's spend 6 months like exploring. Amy started freelancing in a business she had never done before. I started freelancing in a business I had never done before, that's right when I started doing like super low budget client shoots, like $100, $200 just to shoot.
Make that money. Make that money, man.
Big money, yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, it was an experiment for us. It was one that was incredibly valuable. It taught us a lot. And like I said, my mentality through life is always, I learn best by doing and learning what not to do, and then hopefully sharing that with others of what not to do and how it worked. Yeah.
I think there's something to say in that like how many entrepreneurial books can you read before you actually start a business?
Right.
And like, that was me early on. Like I read every Seth Godin book. Like Chris Gillibo was super inspiring for me early on. Like The Art of Nonconformity was huge. And like just kind of read up everything and realizing that I was spending more time consuming than I was creating.
Yeah.
And like that was an important shift for me to be like, all right, this stuff is helpful. And it really, I think it lays the groundwork for the direction you should head. Because like a lot of times there's a lot of information out there that's either wrong or misguided, or that's, I think, going to be hurtful to people's happiness in the long run, right? Like, if you kind of like look at these images of success, and not to name names, but there's like definitely people out there that kind of drive it in you that to be successful is to have a huge audience. To be successful is to make all the millions of dollars making courses or whatever you're doing. And it's like, maybe that's not what's going to make you happy. Maybe it's actually the work that you're doing every day, Like everybody's trying to, because that's sexy to sell the destination, to sell where you're going to arrive at.
The laptop lifestyle.
Yeah. And it's like, I think that what it takes though, because I talk a lot about making meaningful content, and I think what it takes is actually just take that extra thought and think about like every title you make or every video you make, just an extra thought to be like, am I being honest and genuine? Is this going to help people? Like, I think that's actually all it takes, as simple as it is.
Yeah. Definitely the extra thought and being willing to make mistakes instead of not taking action. Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest things. Is it's really easy to look at a mistake as a failure, and that is it serves no one. It doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve anyone you're around. Failure is the greatest way to move forward and do better. And life is long most of the time, in the sense of it's too short, but it's long in the sense of we have today, and you assume we'll get tomorrow, and you can do it again. You can try again. Yeah. And that's, I think, what most people will forget. It's like the whole idea of most people overestimate what they can do in a day, underestimate what they can do in a year. I think Bill Gates said that.
I think it was Einstein.
Einstein.
Yeah. No, dude, I love that quote, and that's so true. And also, like, we try to always kind of put a plan together, a business plan. We try to figure out, this is exactly where I'm going to be in X amount of years, and it's pointless. It may be fun, it's food for thought, but at the same time, it's like, if you just put in the work every day, that's all you need to do. You just need to, and like,
show up.
Show up every single day, but also like be focused on improving, and don't hit your head against the wall if it's not working out. Try to figure out a way to make it work. It's there's no science to it. I love Break the Twitch. I love the name. I love like the whole idea behind it. Talk a little bit about when you first came about with this name, and when this kind of the Twitch started to take hold in your life.
Yeah. So much like you talk about your student debt and buying a car and just making these sort of decisions that probably didn't align with your best interest and what you really wanted out of all of this immediately. And so for me, that looked like Amazon. Now, I want to start off by saying I don't have anything against Amazon directly. I think Amazon's a tool, just like a hammer, like anything else. You can use it for lots of different things, right? But for me, it was Amazon, and it was Amazon Prime specifically. And I had a lot of just sort of packages showing up to my porch regularly. And I saw this pattern, and my wife and I sort of also saw this pattern. It was a jointly seen pattern of these things coming. And I got to a point where, like, sometimes I would not know what it was that was arriving. Like,
did I order something?
Was this, which one was this again? Yeah. And so after a while, I went into my Amazon account. You can do this. You can go in, and in your settings, you can download a list of all your purchases and export a Excel spreadsheet. And that's what I did. So I did the previous 4 years of spending history, and I graphed it all out and charted it. And now the numbers, each year, I think the numbers, the amount I spent or whatever, it gets less and less relevant to this actual thing. Mm-hmm. The point was that I was buying something every 3 days for 4 years straight, basically. And the amount is like, again, people get their groceries through Amazon now, so I don't think that's as relevant anymore. But
sure.
The point is, I was mindlessly clicking this buy now button, and it felt good, right? It felt good to buy something because it felt like a solution sort of maybe to a problem I was having, or like, oh, this thing will be the right cable for this or whatever. And that sort of action felt more like just a muscle movement, like a twitch in this impulsive thing. And then it sort of, I realized that idea followed through to checking your smartphone, pulling things out, feeling uncomfortable just standing in line or at a street corner or just waiting for a friend instead of just idling and sort of being willing to exist in space. We get that urge, that twitch to pull out our phone to do something. And so that's where the twitch came from. But the story about the spending is I charted all of this stuff out, and I'd spent all this money very frequently, and the chart was ridiculous because on the high end, I had bought a laptop, like a MacBook Air from 2012, and a camera, but that was really it. There weren't a ton of items of really high value for the amount that I spent. Most of the things, like 300 of the 350 items, were well below $40, $30 in that range. And so it was these small decisions that were adding up to become substantially impactful over a long period of time. It was like reverse compound interest. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So just save $10 a week and that will add up over time. I was doing the opposite of that, and it added up over time. Mm-hmm. And I realized that that's why I wasn't able to live like I thought I wanted to, right? I had a decently paying job and things were fine, but every month, like, the credit card bill sort of was not ideal. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where this idea of the twitch came from. All of these collective experiences of being on social media, scrolling through, the feelings we have when that stuff is happening, and wanting more and more of it. And so then I started exploring what it means to break that twitch, to choose differently, to align action with intention.
One of my favorite things about this whole thing is actually naming it and calling it the twitch. Because I find myself even using that vernacular in my day-to-day, like oftentimes I try to get into the practice of not bringing my phone everywhere. I'm sure you do this as well.
Yeah.
And it's like you go to the grocery store for the first time without your phone, and it's like every moment that you pause, every time you go up to, you're waiting in line to order your salmon at the fish counter, or you're at the line to actually check out. Anytime there's a brief pause, you pop your phone out and you check it. And you're like, and when your phone's not there, you're like, oh shit. But if you didn't have that, you wouldn't even have thought, the process wouldn't have come up like, oh my God, I have a problem. So like, how do you mindfully go about your day now in terms of ensuring that that twitch, while I don't know if you've killed it.
No.
It's impossible to kill the twitch.
Not, yeah.
It's there. How do you control the twitch?
Yeah.
How do you break it? So
a lot of it is practice. A lot of it is practice. And so I do different things. And what I talk about, it comes out in different ways. So doing like digital detoxes and different things to work to create the space again that doesn't automatically get filled by the twitch. And so some of the things that I talk about, one are like, first, recognize the feeling. That's just the first step of even exploring this stuff, is recognize the feeling when you feel like you're needing to take out your phone. You can just pause for a second. Just recognize it. And the really important thing too is not to feel guilty that you're experiencing that, because it is a programmed condition. It's a programmed thing. Apps and everything we use in our daily lives. The new competition is addiction, right? The idea of creating addiction to the apps we use, to the way we purchase, making it so seamless that it's just quick and addictive. So recognizing that is the first step. Oh, I'm twitching right now. This is totally this thing. And then the second sort of step is like pausing and allowing yourself to sort of be in that moment, and exploring what it means to not do that. Some really good ways to do that are by putting very direct blocks on your ability to do that. So doing things like taking a 90-day sabbatical. Sabbatical is a weird word for that. Taking a 90-day shopping ban from Amazon. Yeah. So even if you get your paper towels and toilet paper and stuff from Amazon, automatically like cancel all of it. Just don't even go near the site for 90 days and allow yourself, your brain, to disconnect that short wire that makes it click without even really thinking about it. Same thing like the Facebook app. If you're on Facebook an hour, 2 hours a day, you need to move the app icon. I'd be willing to bet that most people could open Facebook. If you have the app, you can open Facebook without opening your eyes. Like you can open your phone and know exactly where that button is.
I think for some people it might be Instagram too. I think Instagram's starting to take over.
Yeah, I think Instagram's taking over, and it's got that quick nature of flipping through. Yeah. So if you have it, you can probably open it without even thinking about it. And so creating that space, creating the resistance in there, and it's like intentional friction is what I call it. You basically move it into a place where you don't know where it is, and so you actually have to scroll through or open a couple folders to find it. That's another great way to give yourself that space, because if you don't give yourself that space, you don't have a fighting chance to really, make that choice.
Yeah, I think you probably could delete it too. I just made the decision yesterday. I didn't actually delete my Facebook accounts because it's, maybe I'm being a bad minimalist. I'm the minimalist that just hides their shit and like they pretend like they're a minimalist, but they still have like a garage filled with stuff. But I realized, all right, I don't use my personal account anymore, but I had the business account that I wanted to actually promote stuff.
Yep.
But I just, the traction hasn't been the same. I get 2 likes on a video. I'm like, this is pointless.
Yeah.
It's not worth the time and energy, even if it's like, even if I just I can push it through Buffer, another third-party app, to upload it to Facebook. It's just there. It's like in my thoughts, and then I still check it all the time.
Yeah.
So I logged out from everything because I didn't want to delete it because I have the domain name, and I'm like, who knows what the hell is going to happen in 10 years, 5 years. It's like, I better at least keep that domain, the facebook.com/Matt Diavella.
Yep.
So I'm like, I keep it, but I'm going to log out and I'm going to never use it again. And so this is day 2. So it hasn't been very long.
Hey, that's what the first 2 days are usually the hardest. Yeah.
But that's the thing, is that we were talking about focus. And I think in terms of business specifically, I think that you have to look at the benefits of what you'll get by doing these things. Is a lot of times it's like, break the Twitch, stop getting these notifications. But when you actually are doing that and you're resisting the temptation to do all these things, you can be more productive. You have more control over your thoughts and what you're going to be doing today. And so for me, it was like, all right, well, what do I want to focus on? I don't want to, Facebook's not important to me. What if I move that out of my life, then I have more time to focus on, publishing content and making stuff for other channels.
Yeah. It's pull versus push, or push versus pull. It's the idea that instead of being told how to spend our time by notifications that come up that aren't relevant to anything that we need in that moment, it's like, if an app, I don't ever need to know if there's a new Netflix special out immediately. Like, maybe if it has a rock in it, right?
If the rock is in it, done. He's the only person I follow on Twitter, so okay, I'm finding out what the Rock's doing at any given time. It's a problem.
But I never really, personally, I never need to know that, and I don't need to know most of what any app needs to tell me instantly. And so I found that turning off all that stuff is really helpful. And you said the word productive, which I love that word, but I think it's really important to distinguish productivity, that rest is productivity, but actual rest, restorative rest, like not laying on the couch scrolling through Instagram, feeling all the things that are going on with that, and like engaging and getting the got more likes or whatever, like engaging with that sort of dopamine experience of that. That's not rest. It's not productive rest. And so I've been into this very big thing of thinking about what it means to be productive in all aspects of life and monotask. There's this obsession with multitasking. And what does it look like to monotask, to sit and drink coffee? Like, when was the last time you sat and drank coffee without doing something else? I mean, it's been a while for me.
Yeah.
But like, the point is, we can be so productive and so much more balanced in a really good place when we're not trying to do 8 things at once, especially when it comes to resting. Because if you rest well, you work well.
Yeah.
And you play well.
Yeah.
So
people wonder why they're overwhelmed. My life is so overwhelming. You're making it overwhelming. It doesn't have to be like that. You don't have to be on your phone all the time. In between every single moment, you have a chance to take a break. And naturally, some people's lives are a little bit busy. If you've got kids and you've got a job and you're maybe taking night classes at school, like, that's a pretty busy life. Don't make it worse by like picking up your phone in between every moment that you actually just need to not think.
And the problem is that it feels, even if you're working, you have night school and you have kids, those moments feel like an escape. Now, I don't have kids, but so I'm only speaking from my perspective here, obviously. But those moments feel like I just like to mindlessly scroll through Facebook or watch like reality TV. It just lets me kind of relax. But that's sort of like a trap, right? It's like a cycle, and it does feel good that you can sort of let go and just watch this stuff or scroll through. But as soon as you get out of it, so if you stop that for a week, it feels uncomfortable because you've changed a comfortable sort of thing that felt like a repeated habit and what felt easy. But then after about a week, 2 weeks of it, you realize that was like in a way a twitch, right? It was filling a space that you have but it's not actually fulfilling. That's what you realize. It's like sugar. When you stop eating sugar, it sucks for the first couple days because that's what your body expects, and it doesn't feel good. You're like, well, this isn't good. This is clearly not a good idea. I need to go back to eating sugar. But then after a week or 2 weeks, you feel so much better. and so, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's always that. It's always a little uncomfortable because the Twitch makes it comfortable. That's the point of it. That addiction, that sort of desire to pull out the phone, it makes standing in line or standing in an awkward place waiting for a friend, not sure what you're going to do, more comfortable. And so we have to step outside of what it means to be comfortable so that we can actually be comfortable being ourselves, being present, being there without that extra thing going on.
Well put. I don't want people to, the one thing I don't want people to feel after hearing this is guilt over those things that they're doing. And that's my life. I was raised Catholic, so guilt is very much a part of my life, and it's something that it's very hard to get rid of, and it takes some mindfulness practices to make sure. But I can certainly feel guilty about everything from I check my phone too much, I'm on the computer too much, I check Facebook too much, I am not creating enough videos, I'm not putting enough content out there, I'm ignoring Instagram stories, why I should be posting more Instagram stories. You know what I mean? Like all these things. How do you view guilt, and how do you make sure that it just doesn't hurt your well-being?
Yeah. Guilt to me has no place in this space. There is no shame in this. Like I said, these things are designed, like the person that came up with the idea for the like button at Facebook recently wrote an article, or came out about this, was like, oh no.
What did I do?
What have we done?
Yeah.
And these things were just features and things. Hey, it'd be cool if your friends can affirm what you do and show a like and engage with it that way, instead of just leaving comments. And that changed everything. And it continually, these things are designed because, I mean, we've talked about the advertising model, right? More eyeballs for longer amounts of time equals more money under the current advertising revenue stream. So whether it's a news site, whether it's YouTube, whether it's whatever it is, an app, the more time you spend in it, the more money they make. So the more addicted they can keep you, the more money they make. And it's corporate America, at least in the context we're talking about. So they use whatever they need to. There's a whole movement. Tristan Harris right now is like coming out with this whole movement of ethical technology. What does it mean to have ethical thought through technology? Because right now it's just, there's no the APA, Attention Protection Agency, that doesn't exist. We don't have a space for this. We're in unprecedented times that we don't have an organization. Not that we need one, but we need to kind of choose these things ourselves, obviously. But there's no agency that's saying like, this is a manipulative psychological practice that teens should not be subjected to. Like growing minds, people that are in their most vulnerable periods of life should not be subjected to this type of psychological things that are going on with this level of technology. And I am not an expert in this, but I know that these things, we should not feel guilty about these things, because most often that just leads to the spiral of guilt, guilt spiral, which is the worst. And I get that. Yeah.
In a lot of ways, we are in every way possible, we are a part of this ourselves, being content creators.
Yeah.
We want eyeballs, we want likes, we want comments, we want all this stuff. We want obviously to help people, but part of that is being a part of this system. So what do we, and you did touch on this a little bit with the break into Twitch, but like, I guess, what do we do as creators specifically to ensure that we're not making things worse, that we're actually making people's experiences and lives better?
Yeah. I think that comes down to a case-by-case basis around what matters most to you and what you think is what you would want based on your own experience. I think, so I have ads on my YouTube videos that I just run because I think people at this point either use an ad blocker or they're so used to them that that it's not as invasive as it used to be. For a long time, I didn't run ads, and I think we've talked about not maybe wanting to run ads in the future as well, or not need to or want to, but I don't have any ads or anything. Like I don't run AdSense or any of that stuff on my blog. It's just clean. It's just my content. I don't do sponsored posts. I don't do things that basically influence the way that I would want to talk about stuff. And I think it's really important to just sort of authentically talk about what you want to share and that sort of thing. So I think it's a mix. Because for a long time I was very against ads on YouTube, and I'm going back and forth with that just because it seems like, again, it's not as invasive maybe as it used to be, or maybe it is. I don't know.
Or maybe people are just so used to it that, well, like if it's on your website, that's one thing, because then it's like you're trying to create this beautiful hub. But on YouTube, everybody else has ads. And I am curious because right now my videos aren't monetized. I'm not against it, and it might be something I do in the future, but I think it's great that you've actually had that experience. So what has been your experience? Has it been worth it? Can you make money through monetization on YouTube? At least enough money. You know what I mean? What is it looking like? How many views do you need to actually make a living off of YouTube?
Yeah. So, my sort of perspective on this has always been basically, if you get 1 million views a month, you're making about $2,200 to $2,600 a month from that. So
you're a millionaire.
So basically you're just
That's
independently
tough.
wealthy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so many views.
It is a lot of views. It is a lot of views. That's 30-ish thousand views a day on average for your channel. And so I think, is it worth it? I don't know. I could probably turn off ads right now and be just fine between my book and the other partnership deals that I have and the different things that I do. But I don't know if it's an extra $300 to $600 a month or just some amount as a creator as what you're doing, like that. To me, I'm reinvesting all of that back into what I'm doing for the most part. Mm-hmm. And so is the cost of having people see an ad in front of my videos more than me being able to continually step up what I'm doing and try to make better things for them? I don't know.
Yeah, I think probably it's a challenging thing, because then certainly once I think it's a harder decision to make down the road, and when say if you're getting 3-4 million views per month, and then all of a sudden now by not doing advertisements you're like, wow, I could be making $200,000 a year just if I click a button,
right?
And that is very tempting. But then I imagine if you are also getting that kind of traction, and
you're doing fine on
you're doing
areas.
fine.
Yeah.
You can make a course. You can I don't know, some people do Patreon. I don't know if you do Patreon.
I don't like Patreon.
Yeah, that's weird. I was talking about this with Sarah Dietschy, just about like the different ways that YouTubers and just creators in general can make money, and it's just there's not so many, Patreon's one of them, and I just don't know.
What do you think about Patreon?
I just think it's, I've got a couple friends that use Patreon, and it works really well for them. I just find it to be weird from a business perspective, because I am a transactional person. Mm-hmm. So like if I want something and I think it's going to add value to my life and it costs money, I will pay for it. But then like most people, like you might get 1 or 2% of your audience to contribute through Patreon, and it just doesn't feel like motivating enough for people to do it, and it comes across as a bit beggy, which is weird. I think it's just that I know it's wrong, because we put out so much free shit that like you shouldn't feel guilty about asking people for like $2 a month or whatever you want to have people pay you, but it's still there. It's still that weird dynamic where I'm like, I don't want to put my hand out. I want to actually make something of value that I can sell to people.
Absolutely. And I think that's my perspective for the most part as well, is that I want to make things, I want to package my information in a way that's like affordable, and that people that want it and want to support what I'm doing can transactionally choose to support what I'm doing because I'm making things of value. And that's been my perspective all along in a way. In fact, that's why it's easy to not do ads when you have 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, because you don't make any money anyways. It's not, like you said, the hard decision comes later on. But with Patreon, it kind of goes against what I feel about creating on the internet, and YouTube in a way does as well. I've always felt very strongly about owning my properties online. Because like you've seen with Facebook, if your entire audience is on Facebook, you don't have a website, and Facebook says, we're going to put the exposure down from 5% to 2% now, just because we want you to spend more money on ads. There's nothing you can do. A lot of people, when Vine disappeared, a lot of people transferred their audiences from Vine to Instagram and then YouTube with a lot of success, but a lot of people didn't. And so if you don't have control over your platform, if you don't own what you create, you aren't in a position to make better choices about it. And so to me, Patreon feels very much like that. I know it works well for some people, and I'm sure it might be a good solution for me. But even 2 months ago, Patreon came out and said, hey, we're changing the way that people do fees. Now the first 75 cents will come to us, and then you get everything after that. Wait, but don't a lot of people just contribute $1 a month, and that's going to mean I get 25 cents after you take your 75 cents? And they backpedaled from that because everyone freaked out.
Yeah.
But that just means that they're giving that. And then the second aspect of that is I want to create because I want to create, and not because that monthly payment is coming in and I feel like I owe it. I want to give it. Does that make sense? Like, I want to make stuff and give it.
Yeah.
Not, okay, you paid me, so here's this.
Yeah.
Did you get that? Like,
yeah, it's almost like that client is how the
it
client
becomes
work goes.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then also, like, a lot of people then feel this drive to, like, well, I have to make popular shit, right? Like, that's the thing, is like, if your main income stream is just YouTube monetization, your paycheck relies on getting lots of views.
Yep.
And that's going to if that doesn't influence the kind of content you're creating, then I don't know what will. Like, literally you're saying, all right, well, if I make this a little bit more sensational, if I make this thumbnail a little bit more pretty and colorful, then I'm going to make, $5,000 more this month, or whatever it might be. That to me is the difficulty with it, where, like, it's hard to kind of wrap my head around, where it's like, advertising might not be for me right now. But, like, how do we take control of when we're putting all of our content on other platforms? And now you have a blog. A lot of YouTubers just go straight YouTube. That's it. Just popping videos up, or they have the Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah.
How can we take control of our content in a world where all of our content is hosted elsewhere?
Yeah. So the big things, at least the traditional thinking, is one, owning a domain, paying. Actually, no, I can answer this very simply. Pay for what you use. Because the traditional adage is if you're not paying for something, you are the product, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're not paying to use Facebook, a service that costs billions of dollars to run, and a service that is incredibly expensive to provide the connection and the good sides of what it offers, then you are what is being sold to advertisers. So do the opposite of that and pay for Netflix. Like, pay to host a website. Even if it's $10 a month or $5 a month, you can choose to own and be the person that, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can choose to not see ads, or you can choose to own the content that you put out by having it on your own domain, your own website. And then obviously YouTube is a huge platform, and it's a huge discovery platform for what we do. It's how a lot of people find us. It's the second biggest search engine in the world. And so you need to keep publishing there, and then you kind of have to see where things go with that. Obviously, we don't know what the future of YouTube is, but it doesn't seem like there are any major competitors coming up right now. Mm-hmm. But as much as possible, owning your content, I think, and so that you do have control over making what you really want to make and what you really want to do. I'm curious what you would think about that too.
I think you're right, and I see that, because I see a lot of the YouTubers and just other people in general investing all their time and energy into specific platforms that they don't own. Like, you got to really think about it. At one point, this is becoming an old folklore at this point, but MySpace was very big when I was in college. And you invested a lot of time and energy into building up these profiles, making them beautiful, and a lot of people were able to turn those into careers. But then what happens when it just falls apart and then you have nothing? And honestly, maybe this is me, and maybe this is just my circle and people that I know, but I see less and less usage on Facebook. So what happens if when you invest all your time and energy into Facebook and it seems like it's never going to die, but then in 5 years, maybe even your audience isn't active on Facebook anymore? So it's like investing. You wouldn't put all your money in one company. Put all your company in Enron, and then what happens when they go bankrupt? You lose everything. So I think it's about diversifying and not diversifying too broadly and widely that you're not going to get a return. Like we were just talking about before, where you have
pick a few. And
so it's so right now my main focus is and I just wrote this out yesterday. I actually have it here. I think it's where is it? That's somewhere. Oh, I think here it is. Yeah, Business Strategy 2018. And so I said, all right, I'm going to focus on these 3 platforms: YouTube, podcast, and Instagram. So those are the platforms I'm going to invest in building an audience outside of my website. And I'm just going to try to focus all my energy into those 3. And then, it's not that simple, because I do have my website that I will be driving people to from time to time and hosting the videos there to almost create, I guess, an organized way for people to see my work. That people can go to and be like, oh, that's a project he did. That's a series he did. I don't think there's any other way to organize that. Through YouTube, you can make a playlist, but I think that's the best way to do it. And then also to have my email newsletter, which is the big one, and which was when I started reaching out to people like you and Josh and Ryan from the Minimalists. They were like, make sure you set up an email newsletter and start capturing those emails, because while MailChimp has a bit of control over the reach and how much you spend to have an account, and if you have 100,000 subscribers, you're paying a lot more money. But you still have those emails, and those emails are yours if you want to reach out to them in any way.
It's your list. Exactly. So the website and the email list are still probably the two main things that most writers, people doing what we're doing, like online entrepreneurs or different people that are creating in this space, would say, and that's been that way for a while. It's still you can't own your list of people who follow you on anything except for email. So it's just a good way to reach people.
I think that you're right, though, in that it's about the discovery. The discovery happens on YouTube. Has been huge. Instagram, not as much in terms of actual organic discovery. But with YouTube, I've just found that just because people tend to be on YouTube to watch videos, and they click through to other videos and they explore and they find new people. So that has been a big push. But then it's all right, where do you want to send them? How do you want to turn this into a business and monetize it, like we were saying, and sending them back to your site? Or really, I think it's just building fans and building an audience that cares about what you make first and foremost, right? It's not about necessarily, where can I send these people? What can I have them do? It's I just want people to think, oh, Matt, he makes great videos. That's, I trust him. Whenever I see his thumbnail pop up on the right and it's new, I'm like, oh, cool, check that out. And I think that's probably bare minimum what we're trying to do here.
All
right, man, you want to do quick questions and finish up this podcast?
Let's do it.
Cool. Oh, by the way, was there anything that we didn't talk about yet that you were like, oh, I wanted to talk about that on the podcast? Or did we kind of cover?
I think we got through stuff. I mean, we definitely focus more on the kind of creator, YouTuber side of things than the break the twitch type, minimalism type interview stuff I usually do, which is great, because I almost never get to talk about this side of things. So it's actually really refreshing.
Yeah, that's what I've been trying to do. And I also didn't want to get caught up in the minimalist stuff so much to be branded as just that's all that I make. And because I don't think I would find it that interesting in the long run to just do nothing but minimalism content. So it's the balance between making the minimalist videos and the doc and that stuff, but then also being I just love the process, creating stuff and being a filmmaker and behind the scenes. And I just made so many mistakes myself that I'm are other people going through this shit? Are other people having a hard time too? Because this is really difficult.
Yeah. The answer is yes.
Yeah. A million times, yes.
And I mean, to that point, I started, Break the Twitch was a minimalism blog, because it's literally declutter blog. And we're like, wait, so we've decluttered, what now? We have space. Oh, habits. Like that's, then it became, okay, we have to show up. How you spend your days is how you spend your lives, right? Annie Dillard. And so it became a habits and minimalism blog. And then I realized, like, once you have a foundation of habits, getting into creative flow and creating, I think everyone is creative. I don't just mean like creatives. I think
mythical unicorn.
Right. Like our inner creativity, whether you're a teacher, whether you're an engineer, getting into the flow state of that is part of this like trifecta of living well and like doing work that matters to you. And so that's how Break the Switch became minimalism, habits, creativity. Yeah. Because I was like, okay, I've created space, I've decluttered, this is awesome, but I feel kind of empty now. Like what do we fill it with? How do we put in the good things back in?
Yeah.
So,
and I love that. I mean, I think that illustrates just how we naturally evolve as ourselves and as businesses to kind of push ourselves, do something new. If something feels like it's getting repetitive or you've just said the same thing 100 times, like maybe I can teach something new. Ramit Sethi, I don't know if you know, I will teach you to be rich. Like his whole thing at the beginning was, I will teach you to be rich in terms of money. But then it turned into, how can I teach you to live a rich life? Which is like a clever little twist and spin on it. But then it allows him to open it up and teach all this other stuff and learn about different aspects of life and teach it in a way that he otherwise couldn't.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool.
Absolutely.
Quick questions, not quick answers. So you can elaborate if you like. But let's start out here with, what one book has had the biggest impact on your life?
Man, that's hard because I've always been very into the books you were talking about earlier, just like the nonfiction, business and personal development type books. You know, the biggest impact, I hate to say it almost, but the 4-Hour Workweek was the one in 2007, 2008 that I read as a 21 or 22 year old or whatever. And that fundamentally changed how I thought about what was possible. And so when it comes down to, I've read a lot of very good books. The Snowball by Warren Buffett is just an amazing, or not by Warren, but about Warren Buffett, is an amazing book, and just different things that have changed my perspective around this. But yeah, to be completely frank, I think the biggest change was what got me thinking about all of this, set me down the path of writing, blogging, doing different things over the last decade. Was the 4-Hour Workweek. Not because I wanted to work 4 hours a week, but just because I think a fundamental shift of realizing that you can detach the money you make from the time you spend on it, and you can create things that then can go out into the world and become assets. I never really was in that groove of thinking about it that way. And so that was a big book for me.
I love 4-Hour Workweek. I love books like that just light a fire under your ass, and you're like, oh shit, like I feel really inspired. And while we know that inspiration and motivation will fade, that the lighting of the fire and that inkling, those ideas, I think are so important, and they actually will push you to start something. And it's the matter of keeping it going is a different story, but like that spark and 4-Hour Workweek was like super inspirational for me too early on. What one skill have you leveraged in a way that others haven't?
My willingness to fail. And I don't know that that's a skill, but I throughout my life, I've always been willing to try and see what happens and get excited about things. And I think that's something that not everyone has. And I've leveraged that to become a filmmaker, to get on YouTube, to start writing. This is something I've literally never talked about publicly before, and I'm about to give it to you. I failed college English 3 times. Wow. And hated it.
Yeah.
And I'm a blogger now. I'm a writer and YouTuber. And that's just something that I think is really, I want people to know now, because first of all, if you're struggling with a traditional format of education, you're not done for. It's just the beginning, right? It's one thing. And secondly, all you have to do is just fail and learn from it and be okay, and just keep trying. Really, that's if you can just be willing to fail, try, and then be okay with it, and then get up and do it again, you will be fine, no matter where you're coming from, no matter what you're doing.
I think that's an amazing story to hear, though, because a lot of times if you fail English, you feel like I'm never going to be a writer. I'm a failure.
Yeah.
And the story that I was always told growing up is about Michael Jordan and how he didn't make his high school basketball team.
Yeah.
If he can't make his high school basketball team the greatest basketball player of all time, it's like, all right, well, if I screw up, if I fail a little bit, if I trip up here, it's not about that. It's about what you do. And like a lot of this stuff becomes cliche, but it's true. Dust yourself off. Keep making shit.
It's real. Yeah. And anyone with kids that are struggling in school, I would say, like, there's hope. Don't feel like that is, if they don't do this, they're never going to make it to anything, because just encourage them to keep working at it. Yeah.
Where do you go when you're feeling doubt?
Doubt? Or, yeah.
Doubt.
That question could be taken in many different ways.
Yeah. It has been taken in a couple different ways.
Yeah. Usually, I think the best answer would be inward. I usually don't dwell on it for too long, and I think that comes back to the answer to the last question of I've been okay with me trying things and them not going well. And so I tend to not get stuck in a ton of that. I'm a pretty optimistic guy. So I think I'm blessed with a relatively present and relatively optimistic just kind of existence. But yeah, I usually try to do something and usually just try to turn inward a bit or just let go of it. And I know that's a vague and not very great answer, but it's just kind of how I process it, maybe. Yeah.
2 more questions. What one thing should people read, watch, or listen to before going to bed tonight besides the 4-hour work week?
Well, I just uploaded a video about lifestyle experiments, and I think that's a really good one because it's been a big proponent of how I've lived my life over the last 3 years. Just trying things. So if it's one of my videos, you can watch the video that I just did about lifestyle experiments on my channel. And then I would say a book. I'm reading Deep Work right now.
Yeah, I've mentioned that about 8 times on this podcast so far.
Yeah, and I just Cal Newport, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, Cal, he's a really just intriguing guy, and it really opens up a perspective about, hey, actually, maybe you don't have to. We feel so, but everyone else is there, and maybe you don't have to do that, and it provides a very valuable perspective about why. So.
Yeah. All right, man. One last question. Where should people go to find you online?
Yeah, so the primary place is breakthetwitch.com, and that is basically the hub of everything I do, writing, and YouTube videos are linked there, or youtube.com/breakthetwitch.
Cool, man. Thanks so much for doing the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the show. Anthony is a complete legend. He just was in town visiting LA, so it was great to finally link up with him. Do yourself a favor and check out his YouTube channel. He posts there pretty frequently. It's called Break the Twitch. Just YouTube search Break the Twitch and you'll find it. Again, send in your questions. You got a question, we've got answers or attempted answers. We will do our best. Send them in. 2 minutes. What about creativity, about living a meaningful life? Whatever you're struggling with, send it in to hello@mattdiavella.com. That's hello@mattdiavella.com. And if you're not busy right now, if you're not like going to work, or if you want to slack off at work, here's something that you can do to help. Leave a review for the Ground Up Show on iTunes. That helps tremendously. And the last thing you can do, if you want to subscribe to YouTube, I make videos every week. I break down some of the things we talk about on this show. And I also make shorter videos, short form content that I deliver on a weekly basis around topics of minimalism, simple living, dealing with distractions, and how to create meaningful content. So check that out. I think you'll like some of the stuff I'm making there. And for a lot of behind the scenes stuff, actually, even for this intro, outro type deal, I did a behind the scenes Instagram stories, which people have been finding pretty helpful to really see how this is going, and me talking through some of the ways that I set up this recording. So Instagram, it's at Matt Diavella, MattDavella. All right, guys, we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.